Hello and welcome to the Business Spotlight interview series. I'm your host, Barrett McDonald. I'm joined today by Roxanne Tate of Tate Engineering, the president and boss. Roxanne, thank you so much for taking the time today to chat with me. Would you like to kick things off with a little bit about yourself and who you are and what ended up getting you on this journey?
Yeah, so I am an engineer by training. Fell into engineering because of my love for math and science, and moved on to work in research and development and then the manufacturing sector. And what pushed me into entrepreneurship was actually I was pregnant with my third child at the time. My first child was getting ready to start school, and both my husband and I had at least an hour's commute to and from work each day. And just the stress of that and the thought of what if a kid gets sick and you need to pick them up from school and all of those things, I said, I need more flexibility. So I started the business out of my basement. 18 months into it, I had, a small portion of my salary replaced by contracts, but by no means was I up to where I was when I left work. And my husband decided at that time that he needed to change as well. So he left his job and we dove in headfirst, the two of us running this business together. And so that was 12 years ago. We're in our 13th year now. And it's hard to believe where we've come.
Absolutely. That's
Mhm.
fantastic. And I applaud you on the journey. Cutting those strings is not an easy feat. So
That's
what
right.
would you say are some of the common misconceptions about running a business and how do you address them?
Um, yeah, that's interesting. I think if I think back to when we first started, like the number of requests you get, for example, for sponsorship and so on. So I think part of it is automatically that you're in business, you have money.
Right.
And I'm going to tell you, the first 5 years was tough. It wasn't easy. You're starting from scratch. So it's a lot hard. It's harder to do than a lot of people think it is. I think the
Absolutely.
majority of folks think it's kind of like sailing off into the sunset. You have a business, you can make your own schedule, you're your own boss. Well, the bottom line is you're not. Your clients are your boss. People who buy your products are your boss because you always have to satisfy them, so they buy more, and so you can sell to more people. So that's probably one of the biggest misconceptions is that it's an easy slog, and it's not. How do I deal with it? I just ignore it and move on and live my own life and run my business the way I want to. So mhm.
Absolutely. And that's a pretty good fair approach. So you start your business from scratch, you
Mhm.
start onboarding employees. So what's
Yeah.
been your biggest learnings as an employer since you began?
Um, One thing is I think I should have started hiring sooner than I did. Because when you start your own business, you wear all of the hats and you just can't get really good at anything. Why I started it was to do the consulting on energy efficiency and help business owners reduce their greenhouse gas emissions and all of those great things, but spending so much time on other things. And if I would have hired somebody sooner, I think I could have built it faster. So that's the first thing. Um, but the biggest lesson I've learned in hiring people is attitude is the biggest part of the equation. Somebody has the right attitude, and obviously they have to have a minimum level of technical ability and the ability to learn and develop and grow. But that's part of the attitude. How do they look at things? Do they have a growth mindset? And also taking time during the hiring process just to make sure because there's so many things related to fit. I mean, there's fit with the rest of the team, there's that attitude I talked about, there's how do they handle relationships, but also we're in the consulting industry, there's fit with clients. Like, not
Right.
everybody's going to jive, and depending on who we have in our client base, that sometimes will dictate the person we bring on the team because we need to make sure they're going to work well together as well as with the rest of us.
Absolutely. That's a fantastic approach. So you've kind of touched on the qualities you look for in your employees. How do you foster that positive work environment for everybody?
Um, the majority of our team really value autonomy in the work that they do. So we provide that to them as much as we can. and regular conversations to talk about, what work do you want to do? Where do you see your career going? What are the things that you want to be involved in? And then we can sort out and hunt out that work together. So they're always interested in what they're doing. They're always kept challenges in front of them. And then we support them in their professional development to get extra training, in any aspect of their work, whether it be technical or on the softer skills. And I find
Well,
that's been really valuable to most of our team. They certainly take advantage of those professional development opportunities. Mhm.
that's fantastic. And what do you attribute your growth to?
Strong relationships, definitely. Um, a really solid work ethic. You know, it can be really hard sometimes to shut out the noise and to stay focused on what it is your objectives are, what your values are as an organization, and where you're headed to. Um, Saying no to things that aren't aligned to what we do, and just delivering the highest quality we can. And if we make a mistake, we own it and we fix it.
Absolutely. So,
Yeah.
in thinking back over the last 13 or so years, if you had to
Mhm.
start all over again from square one in business, what would you do differently the next time around?
Um, Not a whole lot. I'm really happy with the way the business has grown and developed. Like I said earlier, I would have hired somebody sooner. We
Okay.
did a really good job of outsourcing certain skill sets and bringing people on a contract basis until we felt more comfortable hiring. But I would have taken that risk and just said, let's get somebody on board, dedicated, loyal, and committed to helping us take the next step.
Absolutely. Fantastic. So, how do you go about balancing the busy schedule of a business owner, the busy schedule of a family, and any aspect of a personal life you have in there?
Yeah. Well, it's not perfect. Some days are way better than others, but it boils down to prioritizing. So I'm very disciplined on a daily basis of prioritizing. These are my top three for the business. And from a family point of view, this is what can flex. This isn't what it can't flex in this respect. I have very specific cutoff times, and I manage my schedule accordingly to that. Yeah, it's really the gist of it, is making sure that what is important to me gets in my calendar, and everything else I either delegate, or if it's not that important, it just doesn't get done.
Absolutely. And there's
Mhm.
absolutely nothing wrong with that. So, last question, kind of off the books from the ones that I sent you and we've gone over today
Sure.
is what's the one piece of advice you have for someone who's watching this series, thinking about getting going for business in themselves?
Oh, wow. Um, know your strengths and weaknesses and know them really well, and play to your strengths the best you can, and fill in the blanks with other people on all of those
Yeah,
weaknesses. Yeah, don't be afraid to ask for help.
absolutely. That's absolutely fantastic advice there, Roxanne. So, thank you so much for your time today. It
You're
was a
welcome.
pleasure chatting with you and getting to learn more about your journey. And to all of you watching at home, I look forward to seeing you on our next Spotlight Series interview.
Great. Thank you.